That Christmas Eve, when my daughter-in-law looked up and declared she would control the entire dinner. I simply smiled at my son. He had no idea what was waiting behind the roast turkey and the fine wine. If you think betrayal is only for the movies, you should listen closely. That night, every word I spoke was a knife cutting the last thing connecting us. There were no miracles that year. Only justice wrapped like a late gift I delivered by hand. My name is Elaine Whitford. At 62 years old, standing in the center of my dining room in Brookridge, Colorado, I felt less like a widow mourning a hard year and more like a hunter checking her traps. I smoothed the edge of the lace tablecloth Harold and I had bought in Europe 30 years ago. The house was too quiet. The kind of heavy silence that hangs in the air right before a storm tears the roof off. Then the storm walked in, wearing 6-inch heels. Sabrina, my daughter-in-law, swept into the kitchen with the energy of a hurricane that demanded to be thanked for the destruction. She slapped her palm flat against the granite countertop, the sound cracking sharply through the warm smell of roasting turkey. "Listen, Elaine," she said, her voice dropping an octave to that condescending tone she used when she thought she was being professional. "From this year on, every single thing in this Christmas dinner will be controlled by me. I decide who sits where. I decide the topics. I control the narrative tonight." The word control hit me like a draft from an open freezer. But tonight, I just looked at her. I forced the corners of my mouth up into the trembling, compliant smile of a woman who has given up. Inside, I was marking a mental tally sheet. That was the last time she would ever speak to me like that without paying the price. "Of course, dear," I said softly. My son, Nathan, drifted in behind her. He was 35, but looked younger in the soft holiday lighting, or perhaps just less formed. He placed a hand on Sabrina's shoulder, but his eyes were darting around the room, avoiding mine. "Mum?" "Don't mind her," Nathan said, his laugh sounding thin and brittle against the kitchen tiles. "Sabrina just wants everything perfect. You know how she gets." I looked at him. My eyes settled on his left wrist. The silver watch glinted under the chandelier. It was the same watch he checked impatiently every Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock before disappearing to the gym with his so-called business partners. It ticked away the seconds of his lies. "I need to ask you something right now. If I told you that tonight, right next to the cranberry sauce and the fine china, there was going to be not just a feast, but a federal arrest warrant, would you believe me? Betrayal happens in kitchens that smell like cinnamon and clove. It happens under warm yellow lights that only illuminated the stage I had built for their execution." The doorbell chimed, slicing through the tension. My sister arrived first. Then came the others. And finally, the new neighbors from down the street arrived. To anyone else, they looked like a nice couple bringing a pecan pie. To me, they were the only people in the room who knew the script. I saw the way the man's eyes did not look at the tree, but scanned the exits and the windows with a professional sharpness. He gave me a barely perceptible nod. Nathan pulled me slightly into the shadow of the hallway, away from the laughter in the living room. His grip was warm, familiar, and terrifyingly deceptive. "Mom," he started, his voice lowering to a whisper. "Mom? Are you sure you are okay? You seem quiet. I really want this Christmas to be peaceful." I looked up at his face. I let my smile widen, sweet and vacant. "It will be unforgettable?" "Nathan," I said, "do you really want peace, son? Or do you just want to be safe from what you did?" to understand why I served justice cold on a china plate tonight. You have to go back 12 months. You have to see the woman I was before the ice set in. I was drowning in the silence left behind after Harold died. A stroke took him in the middle of a Tuesday morning, leaving me alone in a house we had shared for 40 years. I had spent 30 years as an office assistant at Blue Oak Meridian Services. I was not financially illiterate. I was just grieving, and grief has a way of making you hand the keys to your life over to the people you think love you the most. Nathan was my anchor in those first few months, the owner of a small real estate firm called Frontier Ridge Properties. He was always posting photos of contracts and talking about million-dollar deals and financial freedom by 35. And then there was Sabrina. She was my new daughter-in-law, a self-proclaimed personal brand consultant. To Sabrina, life was not something you lived. It was something you curated. She spoke in a language of buzzwords. I began to notice things, little cracks in the picture. There was Nathan's strange habit every Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He would vanish, claiming it was a gym session or a quick meeting with the bank. Then came the Sunday dinners. Sabrina would bring food in plastic takeout containers, plate it on my dishes, and establish new rules for my table. "Let's not talk about the past tonight," she said. Slowly, the house ceased to be mine. She replaced my heavy curtains. She criticized my old ceramic plates. "Have you thought about selling?" Mom Nathan asked one evening. "And easier for us to help you manage your assets." Sabrina added quickly. The trap snapped shut on a Tuesday evening. Sabrina slid a stack of documents across the kitchen island. "These are just standard insurance forms and an online authorization. Elaine," she said, her voice smooth like syrup. "It just means if something happens, we can handle the boring stuff for you instantly." I looked at Nathan. He was leaning against the fridge, nodding encouragingly. "It's for the best. Mom, trust us." I signed. I signed because my hand was shaking from missing Harold. Last Christmas was the final time the world felt normal. Nathan hugged me for a long time that night. But over his shoulder, I saw Sabrina. She was holding her phone up, recording us. "Look a little more." Grateful. Elaine. Perfect for the feed. I was not a person to her. I was a prop. It was a Tuesday in March when the silence of my house was shattered. The voice was male, deep and heavy. Coast Guard. Key Biscayne. Storm. Nathan is missing. The phone slipped from my fingers and hit the hardwood floor. I did not cry. I simply sat there. Before I could even process the hollow ache, Sabrina rushed in. She screamed. Her grief was loud, theatrical, and immediate. But when she looked up at me, her mascara was perfectly intact. "I will handle everything. Mom." She whispered fiercely into my ear. She took over with a terrifying efficiency. She contacted the funeral home, spoken to the pastor, and arranged a memorial service. She selected a photo of Nathan laughing on a beach, blown up to poster size. It was a production. The memorial service was a blur. I sat in the front row, staring at that large photograph. This felt like speaking into a void. Then Sabrina took the stage. "Nathan's biggest worry was always his mother," she said, her voice breaking perfectly. "He made me promise. He made me promise that if anything ever happened to him, I would protect Elaine." As I was leaving the pew, a man I vaguely recognized as one of Nathan's college friends leaned in to hug me. I guess he was down in Florida for those investors again. He was flying down there so much lately. I froze. Nathan had never mentioned investors in Florida. Back at the house, Sabrina started stacking papers. "Mom, listen," she said, her voice dropping the tragic tremor. "I am going to take all of Nathan's financial files and yours too, just temporarily. You are too weak to deal with this right now." She added, "I will transfer a few of the accounts to joint names. You just rest. I will take care of everything." I nodded. I handed her the heavy binder. That night, sleep was impossible. Around midnight, I heard her voice. She was not crying. She was speaking in a low, hissed whisper. "Stop panicking. I told you. The insurance policy has a clause. Yes, 90 days. No, she doesn't know anything. She is a mess. I have it all under control." I stood in the dark hallway, clutching my robe, and for the first time since the phone rang, my heart felt cold. 3 weeks after the memorial service, I saw a thick envelope from Westfield Community Bank. It was stamped urgent. It was a notice of default on a commercial loan for a development project called Brookridge Plaza. The demand was for payment on a loan of $250,000. There, at the bottom of the page, next to Nathan's signature, was mine. I had never signed this. But the document said I owed them $250,000. Sabrina walked in. She saw the papers spread out and laughed. "Oh, banks make mistakes all the time," she said dismissively. She reached out to take the paper from my hand. "Give it to me. I will call their legal department and handle it for you." Her fingers were inches from the paper when I pulled it back against my chest. "No," I said. It was the first time I had denied her anything in months. Her eyes narrowed, and I saw a flash of pure, cold calculation, sharp as a scalpel. "Fine," she said. "I was just trying to help you. You are so fragile right now." I drove straight to the house of Marjorie, my old friend who had retired after managing a bank branch for 4 decades. Marjorie studied the document under a bright lamp. "Elaine," Marjorie said, looking up over her spectacles. "This is a trace. A very good one, but a trace." Marjorie arranged a private meeting for us at Westfield. The loan officer revealed the history. It wasn't just one loan. Over the last 8 years, there had been multiple lines of credit secured against my home. The total debt was over $600,000. Mr. Whitford usually came in on Mondays, the officer said, checking the digital logs. Around 3 in the afternoon, the air left my lungs, the gym sessions, the partnership meetings, all those years. He was driving across town to mortgage my life away. Marjorie pointed a manicured finger at a clause. On the associated life insurance policies and the collateral agreements, Sabrina Whitford was listed as the secondary beneficiary and had power of attorney for specific transactions. She didn't just know. She helped hold the pen, Marjorie stated. I walked out of the bank clutching a folder of photocopies. Every Sunday dinner, every hug, every promise to take care of me, it had all been math. They had been building a portfolio, and I was just another asset to be liquidated. I walked into the kitchen and slammed the heavy folder of photocopies onto the granite island. "Explain this," I demanded. "You and Nathan used my home as an ATM machine for 8 years. Sabrina picked up one of the papers and laughed a soft, pitying sound. "Oh, Elaine? You are just confused again," she said. "You signed these. You just don't remember. We were just trying to help you invest. Do not lie to me." I snapped. I went to Marjorie. I went to the bank. They confirmed the signatures are forgeries. Sabrina's face changed. You are ungrateful, she hissed. He is dead. Elaine. And you are here, worrying about money. You are a lonely, bitter old woman. Her words failed to cut me. They burned away the fog. If Nathan were alive, I said, my voice low and dangerous. If Nathan were alive, he would have to answer for every single penny. For a split second, Sabrina flinched. Her eyes widened. Her breath hitched. It was a flash of genuine panic, covered instantly by a flood of theatrical tears. He isn't alive, she screamed. He is gone. And I am here all alone trying to clean up his mess. That night, I went into Nathan's old room, my fingers brushed against cold plastic. It was a phone, not his sleek smartphone, but an older model, a burner phone I had never seen before. I plugged it in. It had just enough battery to turn on. I scrolled through the text messages. The number had a Mexico country code. Weather is good on the Yucatan coast. Sabrina says everything here will be wiped clean before Christmas. I sat on the edge of the bed. Nathan wasn't dead. My son was not at the bottom of the ocean. He was drinking cocktails on a beach in Mexico, waiting for his wife to cash in on his mother's ruin. I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I have to tell you something right now. I let them control my life because I thought keeping the peace was more important than knowing the truth. Silence never protects you. It only protects the people who are lying to you. The next morning, I drove to the city to meet Laverne Cole, the financial attorney. I laid everything out, the forged loan documents, the foreclosure notices, and the burner phone. This is no longer a family matter, Laverne said. This is high-level financial fraud, and if your son is actually breathing air somewhere, we are looking at a staged death. She immediately called Jonah Reyes, a private investigator who specialized in finding people in Latin America. Jonah traced Nathan's digital life apart. He traced the IP addresses from the burner phone, cross-referenced them with flight manifests to Cancun. A week later, Jonah slid a manila envelope across the desk. I pulled out a glossy photograph. It was Nathan. He was wearing a floral shirt, laughing, holding a bottle of beer, going by the name Evan Blake. I stared at the image. While I was sitting in my kitchen, deciding whether to sell my wedding ring to pay the interest on his fraud, my son was living in paradise. Jonah pulled out a tablet. He had recorded the screen of Nathan's laptop while he was on a video call. On the grainy screen was Sabrina. She is clueless. Sabrina's voice was heard clearly. She signs whatever I put in front of her. Mom is stupid. She does not suspect a thing. I told her I'm handling the scary men from the bank. Finish it before Christmas, Nathan said. Elaine, Laverne said. We have enough here to go to the FBI right now. This is a slam dunk. They will go away for 20 years. I want one thing, I said. I want to see him, I said. I want to look him in the eye and see if there is anything left of the son I raised. Jonah arranged it, a senior vacation package to the Yucatan. I was going to verify the death of my son. This was not violence. This was simply balancing the ledger. I walked straight to his table, my shadow falling over his paper menu. Nathan Whitford, I said. The sound of his real name made him jump. His beer bottle tipped over, spilling cold liquid. He looked up, his face draining of color instantly. Mum, what? What are you doing here? He stammered, his lips trembling. I did not hug him. I simply placed a manila envelope on the wet tabletop. It contained the copies of the forged loan documents and the transcript of the text messages. "Which lie are you going to start with?" "Son?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "The one about your death, or the one about the $600,000 you stole from me?" He tried to recover, but failed. "I am in debt. Huge debt. It was the pressure, the system." He confessed that Sabrina had convinced him to use my signature because I authorized the online power of attorney. He admitted she told him she was the primary beneficiary on the life policy and that the payout would clear everything. I listened to every word, the miniature recorder in my breast pocket doing its job. "What are you going to do?" Nathan asked, finally trapped. "A part of me still wants to hold you," I told him honestly. "The other part wants to ensure that you and your wife never do this to another living soul. Guess which part is winning?" Before I walked away, I leaned close to him. "You are going home for Christmas." "Nathan," I whispered. "Not for dinner. You are going home to watch what happens when you bury your own mother while she is still breathing." I had already sent the voice recording and the complete file to the FBI that very evening. I returned to Brookridge with a purpose. Laverne and I sat across the table from Daniel Harper, a special agent with the FBI. He listened to the recording of Nathan's confession. "This is significant," Harper stated. "Elder financial exploitation, identity theft, and cross-border conspiracy. The FBI, through Jonah, contacted Nathan. Nathan, terrified, agreed to cooperate secretly to receive a reduced sentence. He agreed to return home voluntarily before Christmas to finalize the property paperwork, not knowing the arrest warrants were already secured. Meanwhile, Sabrina was playing the role of the grieving widow to perfection. Harper, Laverne, and I mapped out the final scene. Christmas dinner was the ideal convergence point. Agent Harper and his partner would attend, posing as the new neighbors. The arrest team would wait in unmarked vans. My one condition: I want the first word. I said, "I want to be the one to lay out the truth in front of everyone, before the handcuffs go on." Harper agreed. I called Sabrina, adopting the persona of the feeble mother. "I do not want any more fighting. I just want a peaceful, full family Christmas dinner, just like Nathan always wanted." She swallowed the bait instantly. She said she would control the whole dinner to make sure everything is perfect for you. She even invited a few of her own close friends, the perfect audience. The day before Christmas Eve, I polished every piece of the crystal glassware. "Tomorrow," I whispered into the quiet air, "tomorrow, I will lose my son again. But this time, at least, he won't disappear into the darkness. And I will choose the timing." It was 4 o'clock on Christmas afternoon. Sabrina arrived early, clutching a laptop and a printed menu. She directed me to sit at the head of the table for the perfect photo op, while she sat in the middle as the host. The first bell rang. It was the new neighbors, Harper and his female partner, both radiating a friendly, slightly bland normalcy. Sabrina was visibly annoyed by the uninvited guests, but I smoothed things over. I drifted into the kitchen. "At least Elaine has this house for me to eventually liquidate," Sabrina confided to her friend, unaware I was standing in the doorway. Then, the doorbell chimed a third time. Nathan walked in. Sabrina screamed, then ran and threw herself into his arms. "You scared me to death. You absolute idiot," I walked over. I gave him a brief, cold hug. "Do not forget your deal with them?" I whispered into his ear. He fabricated a hasty story for Sabrina. He had been forced to disappear because of his debts. Sabrina believed the lie, demanding, "From now on, everything is controlled by me." The dinner began. Sabrina stood up, raising her glass high, to family. She announced, to forgiveness, and to the fact that no matter what happens, we always come back together. When Sabrina finally finished her speech, I stood up. "I want to tell you all a story," I began, my voice clear and steady. "It is a true story. It is about a 62-year-old mother, about forged loan agreements that she never signed, about a son who faked his death off the coast of Florida, and a daughter-in-law who calculated his life insurance policy to the last cent." Sabrina let out a high-pitched, mocking laugh. "Mom, stop, please. Everyone does not need to hear your little fantasies," she demanded. I ignored her. I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and placed it next to the cranberry sauce. I hit play on the recording from La Brisa Roja. Nathan's voice, clear and loud, filled the dining room. She is clueless. She signs whatever I put in front of her. Mom is stupid. She does not suspect a thing. And then Sabrina's voice. "Finish it before Christmas. I need that payout." The laughter of the two of them echoed through the house. The entire table went silent, broken only by the sound of a fork clattering against the china plate. The recording ended. Sabrina looked down at the phone, then up at me, her eyes wild. "That is fake. That is edited." "You cannot do this to me," she shrieked, lunging across the table. Agent Harper placed a large, firm hand flat on the table. "Mrs. Sabrina Whitford, we have the original, unedited audio of this conversation, along with federal warrants for your arrest and the arrest of your husband." Sabrina's head snapped toward Nathan. She saw that he was not surprised. You sold me out," she spat. Nathan finally stood up. "I did not sell you out." "Sabrina," he said, "you sold my mother out first. I just decided I was not going to bury her twice." Harper and his partner pulled out their badges. They read the charges: financial fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and staging a fake death. Sabrina's hands were cuffed quickly. She was screaming, fighting the entire time, her perfect holiday image shattering. Nathan, too, was cuffed, but the agents handled him with slightly more care as the cooperating witness. Nathan turned to me, his eyes begging for a touch. Sabrina continued to thrash, screaming that it was all Nathan's fault and that I was benefiting from the whole thing. I looked at her, calm now. "No, Sabrina. The only thing I profited from you two was pain. Today, I am simply returning the investment." As Nathan was led past me, he whispered, "Mom." "I am sorry." I met his gaze. She said she would control Christmas dinner. I smiled at my son. "Do not you know what happens? What happened is you lost your last chance to be a decent man." The door closed behind them. The sirens outside faded, swallowed by the still-playing Christmas carol on the stereo. I sat back down at the table, looking at the two empty seats. I have lost my son twice. The first time, I lost him because I trusted blindly. The second time, I lost him because I chose justice. If you ever have to make that choice, please remember this. No one has the right to use the word family as a noose to choke you with papers you have not read. I stood up, pushing away the plate of uneaten turkey. I walked to the back door, opened it, and stepped onto the cold Christmas night porch. I did not know what the court would decide tomorrow, or if I would ever forgive Nathan. But I knew one thing for certain this Christmas dinner. For the first time in many years, I was the one in control. Thanks for listening to my story. Everyone, if you found yourself nodding along, let me know where you are tuning in from in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary, like this video, and hit that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.